Good morning, everyone. The holiday's over. Everyone's ready to get back to work and get to making some money, and I'm ready to get a few small projects done before we do go back to Texas. The projects have focused more on storing our things, keeping them safe while we're gone, and having a safe, dry place to keep the boat as well while we're gone. So here's a few things from yesterday. So here we are out front here towards the beach side. This fence here was in crumbling state of disarray when we bought here in this subdivision. They did not expect the damages that this salt would do, and it did not have the regular maintenance. So we rebuilt the fence last trip, poured these columns, poured solid concrete headers across there instead of just hollow block. But down here on the beach side, the sand seems to just wash away so easy. It's exposed some roots here on the coconuts, and I want to try to stop that. So this clay and stone, it'll stick together, it binds together, especially once it gets wet here, unlike the sand that just washes away. So we started backfilling. That's what the two dump truck loads of clay and stone from the mountains are. We're going to fill this up. I'll eventually get it filled up to that line right there and bring it out a ways, and maybe just to around these coconuts here as well. On our projects, I last trip had began building this boat ramp going out to the ocean there, and in it building these planters right here. Now I haven't planted anything yet because just not really ready yet, and even though this clay will grow stuff out here near to the water, it really needs to be enriched, and I'm looking at maybe those carbonized rice hulls that have become very popular here in the Philippines now. But I've been building this ramp, and I need to add 2 more extensions out. Right now it's low tide. I will probably only be able to launch during high tide, so that water, I guarantee, is every bit of 4 to 5 foot lower right now, possibly even sometimes 6. Always thinking of back home, Texas road, and you head to Texas that way. But in between the ramp going out and the back of the garage where the boat is stored, I still had nothing but clay that I had some sand spread over the top of the clay, so when we walked with it didn't become so muddy every step we made, clay sticking to your feet. I wanted this not just flat poured like they do a lot in the US on a driveway, because of course I'm near the ocean here. There's always the chances of undermining. We have way more rainfall here. We're in the tropics, so I need stability. They drilled into the main beam and tied it all together, and they drilled those at an angle and bent them around as I've showed them in the past, so they don't just pull out. It's locked in at an angle. It's very important when you tie something in like that, don't drill straight in. Of course, if the seismic activity or settling, it can just pull away. But if you'll drill those in at a sharp angle and then bend them around, and the others bend it at the opposite direction, it locks it in. It cannot pull. Now, one of the first things I did when we bought this lot is I had a well dug. I did not hire a company here to put this well in. My brothers did it. They knew what to do. They were capable. They're energetic. And they dug this well in by hand themselves, set these tubes, and then plashed them in. Now, this well is not super deep, but it's not shallow either. So if we dig down too deep right here near the ocean, we will hit salt water. So you cannot dig a deep well right here this close to the ocean. So there's a finite area that you can go down, and there's fresh water, but if you go too deep, you're going to hit salt water. So it's not a super deep well, but they knew right where to hit and hit the fresh water, and it seems to be really great water. So once the well was going, the first thing I did myself is I dug a trench back about 60 feet from the well to back here in the back, and I myself put in this hand pump. So anybody that's viewing this video that's not familiar with Philippines and some of these other developing nations, we don't much see these in the US since maybe the early 1900s. But here they are a commonplace, everyday part of life to have a hand well pump. I love it. I'm a very nostalgic person. I love having this old well. I wanted to be the one to do it firsthand myself. And I wanted to put in check valves along the pipe so that the water doesn't have to pull so hard coming up to it. So I bought the pump, I set the form, I poured the concrete, set anchors, stainless steel bolts, and put it in. It's time for another coat of paint again, but it works. It's a great little well. Of course, eventually we'll end up pouring cement, real decorative around this area, probably tile it. But for now, we're leaving it raw like it is because we're building and we're pouring cement, we're mixing cement, and they use this a lot right here. So even though I do have that hand pump off the well, I do have an electric pump as well, submersible down in the bottom of this. Now, it is not an AC pump, it's a DC pump. I sourced it and brought it with me from overseas back in the US, but actually I bought it out of another country. It got shipped to the US, and then here they did not want to ship to the Philippines. So it is a stainless steel and PVC submersible 12-volt pump for these wells. I questioned if I'd really like it or not, if it was going to be sufficient or not. It turned out to be a very great pump. And now, does it pump at a huge, fast volume of water? No. Would it go into a very deep well? No, but this isn't a very deep well. So it didn't have to lift the water so high. And you don't want to put a large pipe big around. You want to put something small that keeps the pressure up, and it doesn't have to push a huge column of water going up. You know, water's heavy and you're pushing it up. The bigger around that pipe, the heavier that water. So it uses a smaller pipe and it pushes up. But I tell you what, I have a very large water tank up on the roof, and it has no problem filling that water tank up, and then I can use that tank forever before I ever have to turn that pump on again. So if it's 12 volt, you know, it only makes sense that I have some type of 12 volt energy source here. Well, I do. I have some solar panels up on the roof right now, as well as a big solar battery inside, charge controller, and even a power inverter to convert to AC energy for some of the other things I need. Is it a huge system? No, but it's an expandable system, and right now it works. I can fill up that 350-gallon tank up there on the roof. I can fill that thing up with this 12-volt submersible pump and not even knock a tiny dent in that battery. It will never go out of green charge status if I completely empty that tank and filled it up with this submersible pump. It will never even take me out of green full charge status. That's how great this little pump is. And I bought all 12-volt solar lights for landscaping around here. I wanted to go direct DC to DC with no inverters and converters and all these things, because those things burn and waste electricity. So I sourced and bought 12-volt DC, quality made, not just cheap plastic, landscaping lights that will end up going on columns and all, which we have pre-wired for all over this place, all around the property. And I have bought digital timers that'll turn those lights on and off in a pattern that I set. That is a wonderful thing. Also, I can run my camera system off of it. The box itself will run off the AC, but the cameras themselves can run off the DC just with a small little DC step down transformer, instead of having to convert that electricity from a DC to AC current. So I will be able to run my CCTV camera system full time as well off the solar. All those little things add up. It adds up. The water pump, the lighting everywhere, the camera system, it adds up, and it's money. And electricity is expensive here in the islands. It's not made from steam and coal and all these things that we do in the US. There is starting to be on some islands, some wind turbine projects, but on the most part, they ship in huge tankers of diesel, and they have great big buildings with massive diesel generators. Just big old huge engines producing diesel power out for electricity here, and that means it's expensive to do. So I want to stay away from the power company all I can. We're paying a bill over there to them now, and it can get high really quick if we don't manage things. So I knew when I built this place, I'm going to manage it from the start. So I'm going to set a system up from the start that's not dependent upon the grid. And another thing is, this grid's always having brownouts, as they call, scheduled brownouts and just unscheduled blackouts. We had it happen during the night. Everything goes off, AC goes off, and you get used to it. Don't panic. It's an everyday part of life. In the US, everybody be panicking and calling the power company. You get used to it. But of course, I want to still have some type of security around us in the middle of the night, and not be in the darkness if we need light. In the solar, I always have power. It goes off everywhere else, it continues on here, and the security system continues on. The CCTV. Yesterday also, I put more shelving up in here in the garage. Now this garage is not finished. These walls still need to be skim coated, and they still need to be painted. But we'll probably wait and do all that once we do the house building project, and they're here doing all that. It won't take these guys long. I mean, they're quick. I can get them to set all this back down. Those are lead anchors in the wall with stainless steel bolts. They can yank it all down, do all their work. We can put them right back up in the same hole, same bolts, put the stuff better organized once that time comes right back up. But for now, I cannot stand the clutter of having anything on the floor and having a mess. A lot of this stuff up here is for the boat. So a lot of it get used up, and there's paints all out here for projects with the fence that are about to get used up as well. So most of it will be gone. But I want the organization. I still have other toolboxes and things of just different little items that I do want to put up there. I do have more shelf brackets. I did cut more shelving yesterday. My brother-in-law got out my saw and he cut me more of these marine plywood shelves. I may, before the day's up, put maybe another one up right up here of the things that I would very seldom ever need. Meanwhile, work continues on here for my new neighbor's house, May in the USA. Nice pretty little beach house. They're doing the whole side towards the beach with glass, upstairs and downstairs. They'll have an uninhibited view of the water out there, with a third floor deck up there on top. It's being built just right next to me here, and ours will be the same. We'll be up and with that third level deck as well. We just have a little bit more space in the build. Our lot is probably in some areas almost 3 times as wide as theirs. Okay everyone, so that was what our projects were for today. They got the concrete beam poured. They scraped down a little bit more soil to get the concrete the thickness that I want. I wanted about 5 inches thick. We didn't push to tie in the grid and get ready to pour concrete today because it seemed like that it wanted to storm at any time, and if we poured concrete and it didn't set yet, that rain came down, and it would be a nightmare. So we kind of just went slow on that, but they did get a whole lot more soil put out along that fence in the front, and going out towards the coconut tree, and got it stacked pretty high. So that was a blessing. I don't know how long this rain's going to last around. It was really a lot of wind blowing and heavy clouds today, and then that storm. And my brother-in-law tells me that there's 2 low pressure systems in the Philippine area right now. That usually means like tropical storms or a developing storm. Sometimes it can turn into a typhoon. I haven't checked it out myself. I haven't looked. He said that they're up near Taiwan, but we're still catching a lot of, I guess, throw off of it, you know, on down here. So, like I say, I hadn't looked into it myself, but I can see the weather's rotten, and it's just not a good time to pour concrete. But the projects continue on. They always continue on. We will get this done someday before I die. Ongoing work forever in my life. Well, I enjoy it. I enjoy building. I enjoy projects. It keeps me out of trouble. Well, everyone, I want to thank you all, as always, for taking time and viewing our projects here. You know, I post this so that other foreigners and Filipinos as well that maybe have questions on projects or questions on life here, what it's like here versus in the Western nations and some other nations in the world as well. Maybe they have something to compare to or learn a little bit about, or maybe I can even help you avoid some hard knocks. Maybe some mistakes I've made or I've seen others made, that I can help you avoid those mistakes, and maybe your projects turn out a little bit better. Now, I persevere through all these projects. You're going to have mishaps. You're going to have misunderstandings. We have language barriers sometimes between what they think you said and what I think they said. So that's part of what we have to deal with here. And it's not always a bad thing. They're learning, you're learning, we're all learning. And as long as we accomplish it and come through at the end, that's all that matters. So just remember, love all the people around you. If you have a misunderstanding with somebody, just move on from it. Don't hold on to it and make grudges. I tell you, we all learn as we get older out there. Life passes by fast. No sense in holding and harboring any bad feelings. So, move on. Enjoy life. Have fun. I know we do. And I'll see you in the next video. I have more projects coming up. Back to the truck. Back to the boat. See you later.